All right, well, welcome to the Sports Guys, our new segment we're going to be doing every single Monday called Hot Takes, where we're going to spend 15 minutes going over the biggest stories from the weekend. We're going to go over our hot takes for you of those big stories. Should be a really fun segment. I want to compliment Rob for coming up with it. You can see the definition of what a hot take is right behind him. So, but this will be a lot of fun. You can look every Monday if you just want a little 15-minute segment from the Sports Guys. You'll get it every Monday, and it'll be just really summarizing the weekend. So let's start our hot take first episode, August 26th, Robbie. And let's start it with that amazing kickoff game on Saturday between Florida State and Georgia Tech. It happened in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland. Was amazed how many Florida State fans were in the stands there. They were about 4-1 Georgia Tech. There were also some just regular Irish fans, but it was really a huge Florida State fan that was there. They were really all doing the tomahawk chop, and
and the
really
singing.
had it going, and they scored the first touchdown. Then after that, they really got into a slugfest with Georgia Tech that really shocked everybody. And of course, you know what happened. They got upset by field goal at the end. So, what are your thoughts about that kickoff game? It was a really good game.
Based on what the program they're building there, I am not that surprised. Nobody's going to want to play these guys. They're maulers. They have probably the best offensive line in football.
And they hired the right coach, clearly, right?
The coach is a beast. He was the offensive line coach for Alabama, or was it Georgia? Alabama. And he's just a pancake kind of guy, lunch pail. His reaction to pulling off that big upset wasn't even. He just said this. We're not trying to impress anybody.
And he kind of expected it. It's like they kind of expected it.
That's what I'm saying. They have a humble approach of just grinding, and they've got some monster linemen. Probably the whole line's gonna be NFL one day. So all 5 starters returning. They got some nice pieces. Nobody's gonna want to really play Georgia Tech. I'm not saying they're gonna win the ACC, but they're not they're not dwelling in the cellar anymore either.
They've been down the cellar with our Virginia Cavaliers for a couple of years, but they're definitely back. I think that coach has got a nice program. Yeah. Atlanta's not a bad place to go play. I mean, they've got a nice advantage there. I think Florida State will still have a really solid kind of 9-2 type season, but how disappointing for them. I mean, they really were coming off a high last year at 10-2, expecting to do even better this year and expecting to make the 12-team playoff. And I don't know now. We'll see.
They're gonna miss Jordan Travis. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to miss him because DJU is not the same thing. I think he can turn the season around. I think he can do well. Next week, they've got a real soft schedule placeholder, but the following week, they're going to start to play some good teams. So they better steamroll next week. And
I will say DJU, he was given up on by Clemson for their current quarterback, Klubnik. He goes to Oregon State for a year, has what is essentially a disappointing year there. Lost all of his big games, including against Oregon, USC, etc. And comes to Florida State. I'm not sure what they're expecting to get from him, but I think he's kind of a overrated. Okay,
he's just kind of okay. Guy. He's a very big quarterback, but he just doesn't bring.
He can't scramble at all. I mean, a lot of those sacks. They got 6 sacks against him, Georgia Tech, and about 4 of them were really his fault. I mean, he just kind of spins into them, To me, the most impressive side out of the 4 sides was the Georgia Tech defense, which nobody saw that coming. Everyone assumed Florida State was going to get 49 points. And Georgia Tech's defense was just flying all over the field. And it was incredible. Their DBs were really good.
Yeah, they got good athletes. They put a nice squad together. That's all you can say, really.
Yeah, it got me really excited for college football. I'll tell you that. It felt like a big game. It was in a foreign country. Had big ramifications right off the bat for the college football playoff and for the ACC. Mm-hmm. So it was exciting.
It's probably not great for the ACC, but it's also humbling for Florida State, who keeps making the claim that they're way bigger than the ACC, and so it's nice that Georgia Tech's coming up. I'd like to see them.
Well, Florida State is. You remember they're suing the ACC, so maybe a little bit.
I know Georgia Tech gave Georgia a good game last year. That wasn't a joke or a runaway game. So I think Georgia Tech's been coming quietly for a good year and a half. Nobody's been watching and listening, so look out.
Second hot take, we got a couple starters that are going to be rookies this year in the NFL. We had the big announcement, Bo Nix, the first time ever Sean Payton has ever started a rookie as a starter. He said that he just couldn't deny him. He was too good in practice, too good in training camp, too accurate. The guy has played the most college football games of any starting quarterback in college football history. He played 61 total games, and he's essentially played 5 years in college and is 24 years old. And he felt like he couldn't deny him. What are your thoughts about Nix?
I've been saying it for months. I think he was the most NFL ready, and I think he's got the lowest ceiling, but also the highest floor at the moment. He was the most ready to come in. He's going to do it. He's not going to be an NFL All-Pro, but he's going to be a starter for a while. And some of the other young guys coming up are going to struggle, but they're going to end up being better pros. That's my take on it.
Yeah. The other two guys, of course, who are going to be starting are Jaden Daniels for our Commanders, and of course, Caleb Williams will start for the Bears. What kind of seasons do you think the two of them are going to have?
It's hard to say. I think it's tough for Caleb Williams because the hype machine is cranked up all the way to 11. He's doing some of the same plays. They're showing the same videos of last year and this year with Jaden Daniels, and they're almost the exact same identical play, but they're treating it so differently. So it's the hype machine is on fire. And so that's scary if you have a rookie quarterback, because the chances of you living up to that kind of hype is low. I think he's going to show a lot of flashes of great skills, and I think he's going to be actually pretty good this year. I think he's been running for his life quite a bit because I don't really believe in that offensive line, and we'll see. But I think he's going to end up having issues over time, like Cam Newton did.
Do you agree that both of these guys are going to make both of their teams better than last year?
Yes.
And
the problem is I think that the Bears could have stayed with their quarterback and brought in different pieces from the draft that could have made them even better. So they're going to be about the same as last year and a little better in several position groups. So they're going to be a better team, but they didn't get substantially better like they could have if they had had that first round number 1 pick, traded down and gotten 2 or 3 picks. They could have gotten linemen and this and that and the other, and then they could have picked up one of these great quarterbacks in the second round.
I think both teams will be. I believe both teams will be improved because of these two guys. I believe that the Commanders have a better roster. And I think if you look at which of these two guys has a better chance to make the playoffs, it's Jaden Daniels.
I agree.
But I think they will both be improved. I think they're both going to be about 500, 8-9, 9-8 kind of thing. The Bears play in a tougher division, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. We'll see how these two guys do. So
I think Jaden Daniels is going to do pretty well. He's going to have some bad games, stinkers in there, but I think they're going to be growing pains. But I think his team will stay with him, and they like him. They're impressed by him. He can make all the throws. He can run very effectively, which is going to be required sometimes, and keeping plays alive. But I don't think you have any kind of issues in the locker room. I think they're going to really like him. So, and they've been quietly building that team up for a couple of years now. So
some of the other quick NFL stories coming out of the weekend. First one is Brandon Ayuk looked like he was headed to the Steelers a week ago. Throughout the week, his deal with the Steelers ended up falling through. Apparently, they couldn't come to terms on draft picks. And then now they've been trying to renegotiate with him in San Francisco to keep him there. But then the Commanders traded Dotson, and the rumor is from several of the insiders that the Commanders are trying to position themselves to trade for Ayuk this coming week, so that you'd have Ayuk on one side and Scary Terry on the other side. So that'd be really interesting if they're able to pull that off. They have the cap room to do it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not pulling the trigger on trading Dotson until I have Ayuk.
I don't know why they did that. It was the strangest thing.
So to me, those two are not related, but they
And
very
by the
well
way, by the way, they did it to a division rival, the Eagles. I didn't understand that either. He's a really good player.
I don't know. They could easily have held on to Dotson until they got the Ayuk deal, but they might not be related. It might be Dotson's obnoxious in the locker room, or his wife wants to move home, or you don't know. They could be related. They might not be. So,
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think it's still 50-50. He's going to stay in San Francisco.
yeah,
Anyway.
it's up in the air now. I don't know what's going to happen with him. I thought he was going to the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So
another big thing that happened Sunday night was the Little League World Series final between Chinese Taipei, and it was funny. You were at my house and driving home, and you called me and asked me what the score was, and I told you it was 1-0 Chinese Taipei going into the sixth inning. It was almost the end of the game.
mm-hmm.
The U.S. team from Florida found a way to score in the sixth, pushed a run across. It was kind of a manufactured run. Then the seventh, nobody scored. Then it goes into the eighth, and they shut down Chinese Taipei in the first half, and then they get a guy to second base with one out, and they pull off a
drag bunt, dragged it right down.
Probably the coolest play I've ever seen in Little League. It looked like something that a major league team would try to do in the playoffs.
It was
incredible.
They
pulled a drag bunt down the first base line, which
it was going alongside the runner. It was wild.
Yeah, it confused the Chinese team so much that the first baseman came in to field it, but the pitcher got there first and he fielded it. And he instinctively wheeled towards first and throws the ball down the line with nobody there. There's nobody to throw it to. So the U.S. guy comes around from second base and scores all the way around.
For the win.
And they just are going crazy, and all the Chinese boys are crying. And I have to say, the sportsmanship portrayed by the U.S. coaches and players was amazing. They were all hugging the Chinese guys.
I was so proud of our team.
They were hugging them. They were consoling them. I was like, wow. I hadn't seen that kind of sportsmanship in a long time.
They celebrated for, a good little bit, and then they all split off and started worrying about the Chinese players because they knew that, man, that Taipei team was tough. They had bases loaded with one out earlier in the game. They could have blown that open, and our guys fought and got those two outs to
the pitchers pitched great. Yeah,
to get out of that situation, and that could have gone differently, and that could have been a 5-0 lead going into the last half inning. At which point probably it's going to be over. So the American boys know that sometimes the baseball gods smile upon you, and however you want to say it. But our guys were very humble. I thought I was proud of the Florida boys for doing the way they reacted. They celebrated, and then they turned and they knew it must have been a heartbreaking loss because Chinese Taipei almost had them.
It was a super thrilling game. I was stunned at how great our team is playing. We're talking about 11 and 12-year-olds playing that well, pitching that well, and then showing that kind of class at the end. That was very cool to watch. And representing Florida.
Yeah, they're well coached. Obviously, if their initial response is let's go worry about our opponent, after we celebrate, we jump around a little bit together and we're super excited, and then we're patting guys on the back and telling them they were champions too and played great and all that. Good stuff. I loved it.
So one other final story, and then we'll call it a night on our hot takes until next week. This one is a guarantee by Jerry Jones that the Dallas Cowboys are going to go to at least the NFC Championship game this year. I was really stunned by that yesterday. He essentially called his shot, almost like a baseball player pointing to the left field fence. I don't know if he's trying to project. I don't know if he's trying to build confidence in Dak. I don't know what he's trying to do. I would never do something like that within any organization. I wouldn't guarantee anything.
I think his thought process
essentially saying that we are going to the NFC Championship. It's not a question. We are doing it.
I think his thought process is he's trying to create a culture of winning, but he doesn't really know how to do that. So he's doing it in the wrong way. I think that's really what you're looking at there. He is frustrated because he's an amazing businessman, but he's a terrible GM, and everyone knows it now. He's allowed 3 of his biggest stars to come up for contract negotiations at the same time, which is a disastrous move for a GM. You shouldn't let Dak's contract Micah Parsons and
Well, you realize CeeDee Lamb
Lamb.
said he's not going to play until he gets a new deal. You realize
I
that,
know.
right? And we're
You
a week
can't let
away from
you can't let all three of those guys want money at the same time. That tells you that you've lost control of your team. And so my hot take is Dallas is going to sell to a new owner within the next 2 years. That's my hot
That
take.
was an interesting take. Why do you
That's my
say
hot
that?
take.
What makes you think that they're going to sell?
I've heard rumors that part of what they're doing, they're trying to put in a bunch of cost savings to try and maximize the value of the team so that he can increase what he asks for a sale price, which is why they're trying not to pay any of the three of these guys. But
Now,
I think he's
being
tired. I think turning it over to his sons and all that is just, he doesn't think that's going to work. So I think he just thinks I better sell while I can at this huge
I want to
price.
just go on the record that I grew up a Redskin fan. Okay, Commanders, Redskins, whatever you want to call them. I'm a Panthers fan now, but I still root for the Commanders. I absolutely despise the Cowboys, and I like when they lose. But I do on this show try to be as objective as I can. And I've looked at the Cowboys all offseason, trying to understand what it is they're doing, what the strategy is, because I'm trying to be objective. And I'm trying to understand their running game situation. They let 2 all-pro tackles go. Their quarterback to me is just okay. He's maybe a top 15, maybe a top 20 quarterback.
Top
CeeDee
20.
Lamb is unhappy and not signed right now.
Micah Parsons wants money.
Their defense is decent, but you saw what happened at the end of the year last year. They got beaten up and
They got
raw all over.
manhandled. Yeah.
And I'm trying to understand how you can call NFC Championship with the team they've assembled, which they didn't really do anything in the offseason.
No, all they did was get older and more unhappy. So
I mean, they got a couple decent players in the draft, but it was nothing impactful,
definitely
really.
some nice players.
Yeah.
But I think they were, if anything, they got weaker in the veterans they let go, and then the backup guys they drafted to take their spots. They didn't get better anywhere. They got younger and not as talented. And those young guys might be good in 3 years, but for right now, that didn't help Dak at all. They have the worst running back room in the NFL. They're going to be younger and less experienced at the offensive line position. Dak hears all this chatter, so I think it's insane to be predicting glorious victories with this team. I think they're going to have a decent season, but
I'm not going to predict that they're not going to make the playoffs, but I think they're right on the edge. I mean, maybe a wild card team at the best.
Maybe a wild card, probably 9-8 or 8-9, which might be enough to make the playoffs. In a relatively weak division, but
they are very good at home. I'll give them that. They don't lose many games at home. They've got 8 games at home. They'll probably go 6-2.
Yeah.
And they'll probably win 3 on the road. So I like them at 9-8.
They have a lot of needs. I think to be out there proclaiming all these victories, I think is foolish.
Now, if he did that the year that he had Ezekiel Elliott at his prime, and Dak Prescott was in his first 2 years, and he was on a rookie deal,
maybe, yeah,
and he called it then. That team was actually NFC Championship ready.
maybe,
so
yeah, except defense. The defense.
They're so much worse than that team. I don't know. I don't quite understand it.
I know. They've tried to address some of their needs on defense, but I think they had too many to address it in one draft. And offensively, they have a weak running game, and they have new linemen and one star receiver who's one of the best in the NFL. But otherwise, nobody that scares you. Tight ends, wide receivers.
So my final take, let's go to our Panthers, and let's talk about Bryce Young. 2 drives yesterday, 2 touchdowns to 2 different receivers, one a tight end and one a wide receiver, both of whom are going to be second stringers, but both are going to make the team. And to watch him march that ball down the field, run the ball a lot, the offensive line looked great. It was first teamers against first teamers for the first time in the preseason. And I'm trying really hard to hold back and not get too excited, but man, it looks so much better than last year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too excited with wins. That's hard to predict. But I think just straight competitiveness is going to be just so much better. They're going to be more competitive, period. Um,
Canales was out on the field slapping guys and high-fiving guys, and he almost looked like a player out there. He was so excited. I
you
just
can
think he's going to
feel
bring something to the team.
he's turning the culture, which is the first step. You don't see winning happen until the culture starts to swing. Then you start to see good young players coming into their own, and then you see veterans that want to come join. And so, um, and you're willing to pay the veterans to come. And then once you start the winning and you start winning big time games like championship games and Super Bowls or getting there or whatever, then you can start asking for veteran discount. But you can't until you are getting to the big games.
Yeah, it's true.
So it's a process that takes years, but a couple of years. But ask the Texans; it's worth it, to build it the right way and change the culture, and then bring in one or two great leaders that put it all together and help. And then
Mhm.
they're going to get all the credit. But honestly, a lot of credit goes to the building part where it's painful, and you're still
Mhm.
doing the right moves and putting the right pieces together and creating the right locker room that you can go get your star quarterback for, and then all your pieces round out into a winning football team.
So probably the most surprising take I've seen of all, just to round out that topic, is Joel Klatt picking the Panthers to go 11-6 this year and make the playoffs, going from 2 wins to 11 wins. I mean, I'm a homer, but even I can't go that far.
Yeah, no,
I've got them 8-9 at best. 11-6. Wow. I mean, that would be a dream season,
I
obviously.
think in our last podcast, I said 9-8. That was pretty optimistic. And I
Mhm.
said 50-50, whether that's good enough for a wild card. I won't be shocked if they get the playoffs. I won't be shocked if they miss it. I really think it's 50-50. But that's a huge upgrade from where they were last year. They've added some nice pieces, but really, we're hoping JC Horn is healthy and Bryce Young takes a step and the
Mhm.
offensive line looks more like 2 years ago than last year.
Mhm.
Icky's been looking good. So we're running the ball well, and we've got some nice pieces at wide receiver. I think the team has improved dramatically, and I think the locker room presence of this coach is going to put some steadiness to it
You know,
and purpose.
the last
So,
couple of years, the lack of use of the tight ends by the Panthers has been driving me crazy. I mean, you and I've talked about that's one of the big elements of winning teams.
yeah,
And watching him in the first 3 preseason games of his coaching career use the double tight end sets and essentially completely fool the defense over and over and over. These guys are wide open. A lot of times both of them are open on a
I
lot of
think
plays.
there are two things
Mm.
that dramatically help a young quarterback who's struggling: running the ball and throwing to the tight end. Those are easy plays for the quarterback so that he can start to get some play action and looking to the wide receivers when the DBs might be collapsing inward, thinking that he's going tight end. That's when you start taking your shots. Once you've established the run and established your tight ends as a threat, then you can start throwing. And that's honestly what the Chiefs do very well. They established a running game with Pacheco and those guys, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They establish a run, and then they throw to Kelsey, and then the defense a little on its heels, and that's when his wide receivers start to get open because his wide receivers aren't very good. They don't get much separation,
Right.
but if
Right.
you can fool a defense, they can get separation easily. So
It's true.
um, that's winning football.
It is. It
It
is.
starts with a young quarterback with running game and tight end use. And if you're not doing those things, you're having a negligent game plan.
And man, some of the upgrades that Panthers have made at the offensive line position are starting to show as well. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
not as leaky as it was last year. I mean, he was running
Yeah.
for his life in every play.
Icky looks good, and they, as long as they stay healthy, they should protect him better. He's not going to hear footsteps. It's slowing down for him a little bit.
They
You
signed Hunt as the left guard. They signed all these big time guys. I mean, they've got essentially 3 out of the 5 guys are probably Pro Bowler level type
Yeah.
offensive linemen. So they really
Yep.
addressed it.
Yep. They addressed it, and they also got getting the tight ends going, and they have a nice running tandem. So they'll be able to take the pressure off Bryce, and that's what you need with a rookie quarterback who's struggling.
And pressure off the defense. I mean, last
And
year
pressure off the defense.
you're scoring 12 points a game last year. I mean, it's not going to win anything.
Yeah, and it was a lot of 3 and outs and stuff. So, your defense is right back on the field again. You want
They were
nice,
losing games
grinding.
they were losing games like 14-13 last year. Their defense was great. The defense was like a top 5 defense.
Yeah,
And yet,
you want a
they were
nice
2-13.
long grinding drives that keep your quarterback clean and confidence rising, and your defense off the field resting and like getting ready, chomping at the bit to go hit somebody.
And running the ball, play action.
Yeah.
Play action only works when you run the ball. So
the best thing that wide receivers can have is a quarterback who's handing the ball off a lot and throw it to the tight ends, and that's going to loosen up those DBs coverages. You're not going to have as much safety help. You're not going to have so your wide receivers know that we got to loosen up this defense before I'm going to see the ball a lot. And then you start seeing the ball a lot, and it's nice. It looks too easy.
That's true. Well, guys, thanks for joining for our first Hot Take episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You'll see us again next Monday for some more hot takes coming out of next weekend. We are just a week and a half from NFL season starting. We're so excited. But drop us a comment down below on a hot take you wish that we had covered from this week, and maybe a hot take you want us to cover in the future, and we'll put it into the program. And
I got to tell you something. I just had a hot batch of wings, and I was watching football, and it was the first one of the year, my batch of wings and football, and it just felt so great. And my hot take is wings and football are back for me. So
what about beer? No beer?
Well, no, I had some beers this weekend and everything, but I am just chilling with my water. But I was sitting back watching football, gnawing on my wings, and I felt like all is right in the world.
Yeah, it's like back to normal again.
Back to normal, yeah.
That's great.
I can't putting wait. On a perfect pair of jeans.
I can't wait. Week and a half from games really meaning something. It's gonna be good stuff. Preseason.
You know what I heard today that was interesting? The players get paid a lot less in camp, even the veterans.
Yeah.
So that's why none of them want to play. They're not really being compensated for the risks they're taking.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said something like $19,000 per game is what they get paid, which most of them are making way more than that.
Which is why you're not going to see CeeDee Lamb in the preseason.
Right. So they were saying that's one of the driving factors in pushing to get rid of preseason games is the players don't want them because it's too much risk. And those are the vocal players. The rookies coming in who are fighting like crazy to get a spot on the team, they might get one, they might not. But the players who are solidly on the team do not want to play these games.
I think it's okay the way it is now. They dropped from 4 preseason games to 3.
Yeah.
I think that was a good thing. And they added 1 additional regular season game.
And next year goes to 2, I think.
I think next year goes to 2. So I don't know.
2 very soon.
I do know the coaches, including Canales and others, said this year that they're finding much more value out of the joint practices they do with other teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Panthers did a whole week practice day after day after day for a week with the Jets. And apparently they're getting a lot more value out of that than preseason games.
You can actually try stuff. Like, for instance, I can't remember
because they're doing full pads.
I can't remember what coach it was, but one of the coaches went over to the other team and asked the defense coordinator to tell them to lighten up a little because they wanted to try a couple of plays. And that's useful because, when you're taking full shots and starting to have guys come off with injuries and you're not able to run the plays you want to practice, you can tell another team to back off a little in a practice, but not in a game where people are being paid and there's, TV revenue. Like I don't know.
True.
It's more formal.
All right, guys. Well, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time on Hot Takes. Thanks, everybody.
See ya. Let's go.